another episode of Free Gossip Girls, a Gossip Girl podcast. I'm Liz.
And I'm Michelle.
Tonight we have a very special guest with us, Stefania Marghitu. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
So excited to have you. Let's tell all of our listeners, first of all, you wrote a book, Teen TV. Let everyone know what that is about.
Yeah, so I wrote a book that kind of serves as a guidebook for the genre of teen TV, and I organized it chronologically, but also by generation. So I had a really great time writing about Gossip Girl for millennial teen TV. And I got to chat with costume designer for the show, Eric Damon, which was really amazing. And as someone who watched the show as it was happening at the time too. So also as a fan of the show, it was a really great experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. And he seems to be so cool.
Yeah, really humble background and very in tune with that kind of being able to have that high fashion coming to your TV screens, before the digital. We talk so much about even those coveted images we would have of, whatever Blair or Serena or anyone was wearing, and how the CW would post just kind of snapshots of the week, because there wasn't any other way to really highlight it or commemorate it, pre-smartphones. And the interview was before they even announced the Gossip Girl reboot. So it's really interesting in hindsight, because he was maybe thinking sorry about that little drive.
No worries.
So yeah, the Gossip Girl reboot wasn't even in the discussion. So
yeah, I'm super excited to see that he's on for the reboot. Are you going to watch the reboot?
I think so, right? I think it feels necessary. I hope to not be disappointed, right? But right. I think, basically everyone's like, this better be good, that sort of thing. But yeah, I think I'm looking forward to it.
Michelle and I were actually talking earlier about, do we think this reboot is for the millennials or is it for Gen Z? Because they're going to be in high school, where the people who watched it when it was live are now in their 30s. So will it translate for which audience? What do you think it will translate for? Which audience?
Right. I think it's both, right? And I mean, especially when you can get that crossover generation and, somebody who teaches college and a lot of college freshmen, it's been kind of great to have the show been described as a classic.
Oh my goodness.
I think it is definitely, fan service to folks like us, right? But also, especially with, the kind of representation on those images we've seen of the cast, I think folks are really excited that it's going to be more inclusive representation wise, because that was definitely part of it, the commentary about New York and, but even the state of Brooklyn changed so much, so
Absolutely.
Williamsburg as this kind of poor, could you imagine Dan and Williamsburg as this kind of poor, maybe only in contrast to somebody the Upper East Side elite could it be, but now, it's blown up so much that, yeah, it's going to be really interesting, just the kind of, especially you all as New Yorkers, the topography of New York and how much that's changed.
Right. It's absolutely true. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm interested. We'll definitely watch. We've said this a million times. But
right.
We're planning on watching it.
We have to talk about it.
We have to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of students that do watch Gossip Girl or that are familiar with most of the television shows of the millennial?
Yeah, and they do. I mean, there's there's this Y2K nostalgia right now, right? So it's early. So we finally had the early aughts, kind of coming back, like the 90s and 80s came back. So it is interesting to see that come back. And I think obviously there's it's almost like a syndication thing with Netflix when these shows come back. and if they're streaming on Netflix. But yeah, they definitely consider Gossip Girl like a standard. And I do think, it's funny because I feel like sometimes the OC feels a little dated to them, but Gossip Girl is strikes a bigger chord with them than I thought. And it really was, I mean, if you contrast it with the OC, where like their communication methods, like, yes, they do use cell phones, but like Gossip Girl, that kind of new technology. And I mean, everybody was starting to read like Perez Hilton at the time too, like just like the whole nature of online culture. And they're both nostalgic about a time where the internet didn't rule everything, but also it's kind of like showing how the internet started to control people's lives. So I think it's a really good time capsule in that way. Because you do have like the smaller screens, and you do have these certain things that aren't, it's not quite taking them over fully, but it's definitely there. So they have their own little, like, obviously, like, how Perez Hilton was, or even how Gawker was, they weren't around for Gawker. So even that really like,
right? They're like, what's that?
It's so funny to say that your students will say that the OC feels dated. For me, that's my number one favorite show of all time. And I'll watch it and I'll be like, this is still relevant to me, but I grew up at that time. And the music influence of that really influenced me. So, and I feel like the students maybe relate more to Gossip Girl because of the internet and that whole influence there.
Right.
Too.
And it's a classic. I'm putting that in quotations because it was the start of texting and people were tracking others. We just got to that in season 4 of Gossip Girl where they're like, oh, I tracked them on Gossip Girl. And we're like, wait, what? That's like Find My Friends these days.
Yes.
I didn't even remember that was a thing in Gossip Girl. So it's kind of like they were a little bit before their time, and we got to see how technology certainly has changed. So I'm curious to see in the reboot how they're going to touch with that, because I feel like everything's instant gratification. And so with us watching this show, maybe it gets posted on Gossip Girl. I feel like it's a little bit slower. So in this new generation, I feel like will we have a Gossip Girl? Will we have to figure out who a Gossip Girl is? I feel like it would be easier to do that because we have such, high technology.
Right. And, something even like I love that, even when Bridgerton came out, everyone was comparing it to Gossip Girl, right? And we find out who the anonymous equivalent is at the end of season 1. So, it's one of those things where like the mystery will be harder to do, but it's also so cool to see it on HBO Max because to get that treatment. And I've definitely showed my students like that New York Magazine cover of like, Gossip Girl, best show ever. And, like to my USC hardcore film students, like, what? There was like a real shocker that like adults were also watching it and viewing it and just really really intrigued, because I was in college. I was the same, so like right before my high school graduation I watched the OC graduation. What you say, all right. Oh yes.
So good.
And like Seth Cohen was definitely like the dream, all of the absolute dream. And it's funny, they're, there's like, it's so established and, that they don't almost realize like the elements that Gossip Girl did. And they definitely love shows like Skins as well, and a lot of the UK shows and like Scum. So I think like the OC also almost was like Gossip Girl almost showed that like pervasiveness of, and like that like you're out of network TV, right, with the CW, like even if it's like drinking martinis at a hotel bar, right?
At 16.
That kind of like nature that it's always around and it's like always available, versus the kind of like, oh, we did it once and we got in trouble and now we're never really going to talk about it too. And I think definitely even I even have friends who grew up in cities that are like really somehow overwhelmed by shows set in the suburbs. They're like, everything just seems so far away, and the driving, like even, kind of like having a car and driving, right? But they also don't realize like things like, Laguna Beach was like a direct reaction to it. So like this whole generation of reality TV on MTV, basically also started by like, oh no, let's have our own version, with Laguna Beach, the real OC, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So the influence is there and the understanding's there, but I also think like things like the fashion are definitely huge, like any headband references, or I think the fact that Blake Lively is such a star right now still, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she was like that it girl, and she's been all over. And Leighton Meester, obviously too, like marrying our dream man. That crossover.
The ultimate crossover.
Yeah, really. Whether they like to admit it or not,
right.
Yeah. What inspired you to put this book together?
So I had originally written about Clueless, and
our favorite movie of all
time. So I had written about kind of how fandom in Clueless is perceived online, and this also was kind of pre-podcast. So like looking back, it was more about kind of Tumblr and things like Wild Fox, and right around when the Iggy Azalea video came out, yes. That completely recreated it. So I got to interview the costume designer for the music video, which was amazing. And
that's awesome.
And her cousin actually was the designer, and I can't remember his name, but the designer of the Lady Gaga meat dress.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
So, that like small world fashion costume designer world. And I originally was doing a project with my old advisor, and she ended up not being able to do it. But like based on the Clueless chapter that I had written, I realized that I really wanted to talk about how we have fans of the coming of age genre and youth genre and teen TV and teen films. And it's either because that's what you're coming of age with, or you have a particular fondness of that genre. Like I watched 90210 when I was a kid. I watched the OC when I was in high school. I watched Gossip Girl when I was in college. And everything since then is kind of like adult,
yeah.
Things like, Riverdale even, I know has gotten a lot of flack for like, this is not, or like yes. Sabrina, right? Like, and exactly like what y'all asked at the beginning, like how much of the reboots are fan service to us and how much are, for new fans to kind of enjoy. So I really love that idea and of like connecting both with like students, but also like my fellow scholars and academics, because I think as millennials, we're also in this in between sort of like my boomer seniors, and my sort of Gen, and then there's, of course, Gen X, always is so small, but
tiniest.
Always, yeah. We're there, we were there, and
we hear you.
Yeah. And there's a lot of idolizing of, shows like Freaks and Geeks, obviously, and like My So-Called Life, the kind of like 90s grunge shows that were fairly short-lived too, but really show that peak. Party of Five.
So good.
And a lot of people when I started the book were like, kids don't watch TV anymore, teens don't watch TV, and it's so cyclical, right? It's people always like say like the death of TV is going to come, just like now there's like all this death of film and with movie theaters, but right as that was happening, like, students were watching Scum on Tumblr. People were rewatching, Gossip Girl. 13 Reasons Why was coming out. Riverdale was coming out. The new Sabrina was coming out. So it was just like a boom, and you don't realize it, right? It's like when all the tween stuff came out for us, or when all these different things started being marketed towards us, that you realize, oh, there's a new generation and they're coming of age and things are being targeted towards them.
So what do you think now is a really good representation of a television show that's out for the generation that it's marketed towards? Like, have you watched a show that you're like, this is a perfect teen drama for today?
And it's got a lot of, you love it or you hate it, I think. But I do think Euphoria has been a really great example, because I think it like shocks folks enough that don't relate to it, which I think other shows did, that happened for previous generations. And watching it with my students, there's like laughter and parts I didn't realize that it's funny, that, it's just like hitting, kind of like that edginess kind of level. I think like the vernacular is there, right? The colloquialisms and like the slang, the fashion, the music, but also I think in the end, my students are like, look, I know it's like exaggerated and this isn't like what my life is, it doesn't look as pretty. And obviously there's like a stylistic element. They're like, but I do relate to the show, just the amount that they were able to relate to the show compared to something like, 13 Reasons Why. They were, they're just not fans of that. So the really kind of, I think when you're a teen, you're really good at deciphering the authenticity behind shows that try to target you. So you're really quick to be like, if this is kind of like talking at you, right, is very like a public service announcement, after school special. It's like, nope, I'm out.
Saved by the Bell.
Right.
Saved by the Bell,
but we love that for what it was in its time. But now these days, I don't think kids would appreciate that at all.
But then they had the reboot.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, and I think they take Saved by the Bell for what it is. I know there's lots of love for Fresh Prince.
So good.
Which also I think the humor really transcends. But yeah, Saved by the Bell was a show I would watch like after school, and there's also like the idea that when you're younger, you watch shows about like folks who are older than you, right?
You're a child and they're a teen, or they're an adult, and
your influence.
Yeah,
that's how you
very much so
get caught up in the world, right?
Yeah, and you're like, what is it going to be like? And of course, the expectation is never there. But but even like those family shows that came out, like Growing Pains, were super PSA.
Loved, but I loved it.
See,
I loved
family shows. I loved Growing Pains.
Mm-hmm.
I hated Seventh Heaven.
Oh,
I thought that was preachy.
I felt like that was corny.
I could not
But Growing Pains was great. It was corny, but in a way where I resonated with that. I was like, I'm in that family. That's my family. Where Growing Seventh Heaven, I was not. I would watch it,
so did
but I like laughed at it.
Yeah, I couldn't.
As a preteen, I was like, this is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and literally preachy. He was a preacher.
Yeah.
Literally a preacher.
Yeah.
And the episodes would be like, this guy's like 17 and he's like, the oldest son, and they're like, let's dine and dash. Like the scenarios were the opposite. Like instead of like the exaggerated, oh, this isn't what high school is like. It's like, come on, like this is a, like low stakes, low level, kind of like bad behavior. But even startup wise, like Jessica Biel, what a blow up.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
And now she is one of the creators of Cruel Summer. I don't know if you've caught that, but Michelle and I are thoroughly enjoying that. And kind of in the same realm, it's a teen drama.
Yeah.
And I find it I still care about these characters, but I put myself in like their parents' shoes. I'm like, oh, well, what if my daughter did this? Or so I still am enjoying it. And I wonder, I mean, I haven't talked to anyone, but a lot of people that have listened to us do enjoy that show. So assuming that they love Gossip Girl, they would like this show.
Right.
And it reminded me a lot of 13 Reasons Why as well, the darkness of it, but yet it's on network TV. So I just think that's a really interesting show that's on that I can watch, and it's like the upcoming teen drama of our year. I also am
curious if I'm enjoying it because it is taking place in
the 90s. Yeah.
Because that's my preferred. There's no social media in it. There's no use of technology. And that's where I want to escape to, is what I'm finding, as I go back and rewatch the teen dramas of yesteryear.
Right. And I wonder if they purposely put it in the 90s.
I don't know.
So that
it's nostalgic.
It's just a nostalgic.
Have you watched it?
I haven't watched it yet, but I'm glad, I took a little break, from watching stuff. I have these like regrets about like what I could have, talked about. But I'm glad to hear you all like it. And that 90s setting, I think, is just so opportune both for us and for Gen Z, and even like for Gen X. I mean, I think it really, for some reason, the 90s and this like Y2K early aughts has really struck a chord. Maybe in the same way like when Stranger Things came out, the 80s did in that way.
Yeah, definitely.
We always have these, revivals of, different trends and different eras coming back. I mean, when like Mad Men was airing, there was the whole, mid-century revival, a lot of ways. But yeah, I think, and, it was, some students are really good at being honest with me about like, well, why are you nostalgic about this era where you weren't born? And sometimes they're like, well, frankly, you were, and also like, it's hard for me to remember, but they were like, you were the only one who witnessed, 9/11. So, we have this there, they talk about, being born, directly before or directly after 9/11, and just sort of this cloud of like, so much is post 9/11 for them, and so much of it is also like safety, but also just kind of views on the world. But yeah, as well as with like the technology of it all and the internet of things of it all, they, instead of, actually being as obsessed as, like, they're perceived, they do like having their like freedom from the technology and their phones more so than I think they get credit for.
Yeah, I'd say so.
That's good.
That is good. That gives me hope for the kids in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have to ask, what is your favorite teen drama?
Oh my God.
Do you have a list?
Yes, you don't have to,
and in no order, but we are a teen drama network. This is what we
course. So. Well, I have to admit, I wasn't big on One Tree Hill, but I think that might be like the only one though. But I wonder if it's because for me, I grew up, it was based sort of in the South, right? Like basically
North Carolina. Yeah.
And I grew up in Alabama. So for me, it was also like this escapism, and it maybe felt too close to home, like especially those early episodes where, like with sports, I was like, I don't want anything with that. But I do think like there's, like a canon almost, I do think like 90210 is important and is there for such a huge reason. And I do think, like the OC and Gossip Girl are so important and like my favorites for a reason. But I also have, the like top for sure. But yeah, I guess those are my top. But personally, I think of course the OC was the most for me, right? It hit
right, yeah. And at that time, it was like Team OC, Team One Tree Hill. So if you watched the OC, you probably didn't watch One Tree Hill. And if you watched One Tree Hill, you probably didn't watch the OC. So it would make sense to me that you love the OC and you were like, no, I want to escape to California. That's where I want to be with my love Seth Cohen and just, soak up all that goodness in California. Totally.
I'm currently rewatching Dawson's Creek.
I can't believe I forgot that one.
Which...
It's funny. It's sort of forgettable.
Growing up as a kid, we were talking about this before we came on with you. We watched it. I was younger, but I watched it here sporadically on television. And now I'm rewatching it. I'm like, man, this is like, it's nostalgic, but Dawson is so whiny and you watch for Pacey, in my opinion, and it's just because like 90210, I loved.
Such juice.
Felicity, I love Felicity.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, is that a teen drama because it was college?
I mean,
it's tough.
It's right.
It's a tough genre. It's a tough genre to pinpoint it.
Yeah. And so then Dawson's Creek, I feel like I need to watch it because it was such a teen drama for the time. I'm like, my goodness, who talks like this? I know Gossip Girl, the way they talk, but Dawson is so, I'm just like, he's so annoying.
Yeah, I think the script and, like that precociousness of Dawson was really big, but I think it really shaped like, that we want, like when we were younger, we're like, we're going to talk this way too. We're going to talk like adults. And, even the music in Dawson's, and they've had their licensing issues, but it's great. But also, I mean, we have White Michelle Williams coming out of it, Katie Holmes.
Right.
And even Joshua Jackson has had, it's actually
has some success. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he really did all well.
Yeah. And it's actually James Vanderbeek who hasn't been able to really kind of do his thing. I mean, I loved his little like stint on Don't Trust
How I Met Your Mother.
And How I Met Your Mother.
On that too.
All his cameos have been great, and I'm sure he's sitting on his money. But I do agree, for me too, like I never had the crush element for Dawson. So when my students are like, Seth Cohen's so whiny and annoying, I'm like, no, if you think that, watch Dawson's Creek. And they're like, okay, he's worse. Okay, he's worse.
Such a different way where Seth Cohen kind of paved the way for that underdog kind of like, I hate the word nerdy.
He was
but
the funny, sarcastic.
He was sarcastic. He was a little shit.
Indie loving music dream of my life. Yeah. That is who I was in love with in high school. So,
and if you look at that like lineage to me of like, before that, it was like Screech. Like you didn't have a cute nerdy boy who could actually get the girl, right? You had either like and even like Anna, who I remember in high school would be like, oh, I like your pins on your backpack. You look like Anna from the OC, or like, even like the evolution of, I think like, right. Like we don't want to say like the nerdy girl, like the Velma almost, like all of those kind of, but it is like that evolution. And it's so funny. That's who Tori Spelling played on Saved by the Bell.
I know.
Violet.
And then she goes to be
on 90210.
Well, and a completely different character.
Yeah,
so
Donna.
Yeah, Donna.
Donna Love it.
That's great. So your book is coming out on May 27th.
Yes.
So where can we order it? Is it up for pre-order? And
yeah. It's available on the Routledge, on the publisher's website, and I do have a discount code for 20% off. I believe it's SMA 04. But if Amazon's easier, it's also on Amazon. And I believe you can order on, you can order at your bookstores, or if you work at a university, you can order it at your university. And I can definitely share the coupon code. But if it's been nice to have friends who aren't academics, enjoy it, which was the goal, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was really fun to read the excerpt that you sent and just reminiscing about what we grew up loving and what we talk about every single week, at least with Gossip Girl. So it's something that I think everyone will enjoy. And your link for everything will be in the description for the episode, not to worry. The discount code will be there. Yeah. So anyone wants to pick it up, they can absolutely do so.
Yeah. And your podcast has been just so great, I think, and I'm sure you've gotten this from folks that, you know, when during this time, right, especially, you know, you feel like you're chatting with your friends, you know, in a time when like phone conversations aren't the thing. So it's a very like nice nostalgic feeling to like look back and watch the episodes. So thank you guys for all the work you do. Aww. I know it's not easy to keep up with it too, right?
It's a full-time job.
Yeah, no, it's not. We love it.
We love it. And we love every single minute of it. And even just hearing you say that you even take a listen to it is amazing. And that's means so much to us. So thank you.
And it's also just fun to connect and talk about this topic because that's my main passion. I went to school for TV and film. Yeah. And so as you're talking about having students, I'm like, I want to be in your class.
Yeah,
I want to talk to this. I want to talk about teen TV all the time. Yeah. And I do, which gets tiring to our friends and my husband. So thank God for that.
And we have each other for that.
And you and our listeners. So I can't wait to read the rest of this book. So
Same.
Very excited.
Yeah. And you all should come to my class because so many of my students are wanting to do podcasts, you know, and so many final projects are turning into podcasts or, you know, they're either looking to start doing podcasts, you know, and so that would also be great, you know, the cross, you know.
Absolutely.
And especially what you're doing them on, right?
Yeah, we'd love 100% be able to steer them hopefully in the right direction. If they have any questions, we absolutely are there.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, I love that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Before we do hang up, though, I have to ask, what are your feelings on Chuck Bass?
Oh, yeah.
Because if you listen,
we hate him.
We are very harsh when it comes to gossip. We're like, OC, I felt like was a love fest.
Well, it's because
yes.
One of our patrons actually just said this, that the OC, they're so relatable all the time. And when they do something that's kind of not relatable, you're surprised. And then Gossip Girl, their entire time, they're so unrelatable. You can't possibly put yourself in their world. And so when they're humanized, you appreciate that. So I feel like that's why our podcast, why our views are the way they are. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, audience.
No, they have to be.
And we're old now. You know, we're adults watching Gossip Girl. It's like.
Yeah. And Michelle for the first time. So, you know,
it's
definitely been hard.
You know, like yeah, you hate to be that killjoy or that buzzkill for friends sometimes. Like I know so many like Grey's fanatics who I'm like, you know, if you watch that first episode, McDreamy will not let go. And she's like, this is harassment. This is harassment. You know,
You're
it's not like you know, and obviously, you know, if you just go back to those first few episodes of Gossip Girl, obviously with Chuck and, you know, little Jay, like hugely problematic, and reminds me a lot actually of, you know, kind of what happens with Mad Men and with like the Pete character, if you've watched Mad Men at all. But you know, I think it's Anne Helen Peterson is really one of my favorite writers about like millennial culture, and she just came out with a piece about like just how in millennial kind of like magazine culture, like fat phobia was just so normal, like like things like eat a grapefruit, you know, or you know that kind of diet culture, and so those kinds of things, but also how we just kind of not accepted, but, you know, things like, you know, you watch your drink, you know, or you watch out for guys like that. But, you know, like the Chuck sort of redemption story, you know, through Blair, right? It's basically completely through his love of Blair, right? Because, you know, and, you know, hashtag Hotel Kid, I know was, you know, we get to see him. I love that, by the way. I was like,
I was like literally not expecting to say that, and it just almost brought tears to my eyes.
Me too. Hashtag Hotel Kid.
Yeah, but like we want to see more of that hashtag Hotel Kid, you know, hashtag Kid.
And like everyone, because I don't know what happens in the end yet. I do know who Gossip is, but every week I'm like, I still feel nothing for you.
Yeah. And I feel less and less every time we watch for him.
Yeah. And I think that's good to look back at. And obviously Dan too, you know, and, you know, even elements of Dan or even, you know, the French, I mean, we're, even like friendships and, mean girl stuff has kind of finally faded away,
Thank God,
Yeah. And that sort of rivalry between, Serena and Blair, even, I feel like, because even a show like Pretty Little Liars, like they were friends, there's parts of it where there's like more camaraderie, but
100%,
it really shows, or, I wrote like about like poor Nellie Yuki, like she had to know, like, but no, I think the harshness of Chuck is totally merited, but fashion wise, like it was so great to speak with Eric David about the fashion of it, because he was cracking me up. He was like, guys, back then used to wear like, bootcut jeans and like an Ed Hardy t-shirt to like dress up.
Right. Like that was their normal. Yeah. Where Chuck Bass kind of took that, and people were inspired by the way he was dressing. Right. Oh, he dresses up nice. Yeah. Even though we think it's ridiculous sometimes, but most of the time it's justified. He's a business guy, and it's just what he was used to. And then the element of Ed being British, and he brought that into there. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it was cool to see that, at least, to give him some positive, outlook on the show. But
I think the fashion is definitely like a redemption point. But yeah, the character, I think in hindsight, it's kind of like the anti-heroes too. I think it's definitely a forgotten, and it was, I had like one of my best friends in college growing up. We always were, that we'd watch a show and we'd always be like, I'm Chuck Bass, he's like, I'm kind of like Chuck Bass, like I kind of dress nice. Nobody else dresses nice, he was just kind of having that like confidence, or, thinking about that fashion, was just different, and like you said in OC, there are even elements where, they do, like, even if the style is like coveted and aspirational, it felt closer, right? It felt like still attainable. Right. Whereas like, at that point, Gossip Girl was like completely unattainable. We could go to like Chinatown and get our knockoffs and get our, like,
we can match a headband maybe, but that's it. Yeah. That's so
but yeah, I think y'all are right on the money.
Oh, well, I feel good then that you said that.
I just always have to ask someone that I meet who has either watched Gossip Girl or is a fan, because not a bunch, but a few of our friends, they're like, Chuck Bass is my favorite.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, now is that nostalgia kicking in?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to say absolutely.
His evolution story we'll see at the end, and he has this big moment, or maybe he just doesn't resonate for certain people and resonates for others. So
right. I think most of it is nostalgia.
Mm-hmm. Because
I was one of them, so
nobody's watched it recently and is like, wow, Chuck is really, nobody's watched it recently and felt that way, I would say. And I think, but another thing is that like Chuck and Blair are also really funny in their meanness. I think that also, like, sometimes I think they're like scathing, like, even his relationship with Dan, how mean he is to Dan. It's just fun. You can't help, but
we do laugh.
And you need that because the show is so serious. You need some comic relief. Yeah. And so Blair being so mean, or Chuck being so mean, it is funny. Yeah. And then you have Dan, where he's like, Rhoda, what's up? What's going on? And like, that is funny in itself, because he truly doesn't belong. Mm-hmm. Or does he? I feel like at this point, he does. He understands these people so much so that he is a part of them. He is them. Yeah. Are them. Is them. Is them. So,
lonely boy.
Lonely boy, exactly.
Lonely boy. He's not so lonely.
No.
Mm-mm. There's the Girls 5 Eva show.
I love Girls 5 Eva.
Michelle loves Girls 5 Eva.
It's so good.
So good. And the Lonely Boy song and everything. Yes. I'm like, this is so, like, he really became also that like prototype.
I'll explain that.
Oh yes, please do.
I should just bring up a clip.
I do want to watch Girls 5 Eva. So
I love Busy Phillips so much. Yes, so I will follow anything she pretty much does, and I love her podcast. And I love Tina Fey too. That whole cast is amazing. But I binged that in one
Same. That was like a weekend. Yeah.
It's so smart.
Are they 22-minute episodes?
Yeah,
it's short. I'll do that in like a day.
And there's 8 episodes.
I'm gonna probably watch tonight and I'll be done.
You should.
Pandemic weekend. Yeah, that's
exactly. Yeah.
And I was so lucky when she had her show on.
Did you go?
I got to go twice. I know. It was so amazing.
My goal and plan was to go with my best friend in like the fall of when it was out. I watched it every night. I would cry when she sang her goodnight song and her Mr. Nightgown. Oh my God, Busy, I love you so much. And then when she had Michelle on, her best friend's Michelle Williams.
Yeah.
And they held hands and they would cry. I'm like, friendship.
Oh.
Was it amazing? Was
real
it so
friendship.
good?
Yeah, it was super, super fun too. And I mean, it was like because she really wanted to have that, and like after reading the book and, having Tina Fey like back her up, and like even watching Hacks now and just realizing there's still no women in late night, and just, how hard she tried and how good it was and how fun it was.
And I love Casey. I love her partner, Casey Simmons.
Yeah. And she works with her on with the podcast. Yeah. Kind of like her. So I went on the one when Linda Cardellini, like that reunion. So that was really amazing. And a friend from London was visiting, and they give you like $2 Chuck, like they give you booze before because it was
that's so cool.
Yeah, like there was a fun little kind of like what VIPs probably normally have in the show, but like what everybody got to have because it was a really small set, and even just like everything was just like good vibes, really, really fun. And it was just such a bummer.
I'm like fangirling over you for going to that experience. I'm like,
yes. I'll send you the pics because
oh my God, please. I love it so much.
It was, and they had the little sign. Oh yeah, it was one of those really great. Because I never have been to a taping out here, and they usually say it takes like forever too. I really didn't even want to. I don't think I would have wanted to go to a late night one that much, or even like. Even the sitcom one can last forever, but I really wasn't trying to go to like Big Bang Theory or like, I don't know.
Nah.
Definitely not that, but I couldn't think of anything. So my students went to Mom, but it was like right after Allison Janney won like the Oscar for I, Tonya. So I don't even think they got to go. It was just like, they just waited, like that culture of just like, I'm just going to wait in line for this and never get it.
God, that's so funny.
With those smaller productions with Dizzy, it was so cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
Well, thank you again so much. I talked your ear off about Busy Phillips, so thank you for joining me on that. I appreciate it. So check out Teen TV. Like we said, we'll have all of the links to Stefania's book in our show notes.
Thank you so much for listening to 3 Gossip Girls. You can find us on all social media platforms at 3 Gossip Girls Pod or at 3gossipgirlspod@gmail.com.
This has been a Total Betty Media podcast, produced and edited by Michelle Rubenstein and Alyssa Tenio, music by Anthony Vicora.